Welcome to Masters of Self University podcast, your highest source of sacred truths and universal wisdom. Hello, beautiful souls. I'm Rachel Fiori, mystic, spiritual teacher, psychic healer, and founder of Masters of Self University. Join our journey of soul transformation as we deep dive into this latest episode.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Masters of Self University podcast. I'm your host, Ellie Lee.
And I'm your host, Danny Morley.
And today, I know, Danny, you've been moving through some things. So the first question to you is, how are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing really good. But the big thing that I've been moving through the last few days is this wound of unworthiness. So I thought today, let's talk about that. Is that cool with you?
Yeah, because I'm very familiar with this one.
Oh, you know unworthiness?
I know her very well.
Okay. Well, why don't you start us off? Why don't you start us off this week? Why don't we put you in the driver's seat and you break down what you've been going through in terms of unworthiness and what you've been feeling?
Oh my God. Yeah. Unworthiness is a big one for me. I don't think I've ever felt worthy in my life, worthy of anything. And I think that I grew up watching my mother really feel unworthy. And for me, I don't even think I knew, I understood what worth really meant because I didn't love myself and I didn't value myself. So how can I deem myself worthy? And so all I've ever done was trying to find worth in everything else, whether that's love, whether it's being popular, whether it's my career, whatever it is. I was always seeking for someone to just pat me on the back. You know, the biggest thing for me in my career was anytime someone would give me a compliment, it was like this high that I would get. And I would walk around for days being like, oh my God, like I'm worthy. Like people think that like I'm this and I'm that. And then it would go away. And then I'd go back to this very low place of like, I'm nothing. And it wasn't until I realized, oh, I need to love myself to find my worth, was when I really started understanding what true worthiness really truly is. And when you really find self-worth, you walk different, you speak different, because now you realize all you've ever done was just trying to get this validation from other people. And now the more you validate you, the higher my worth becomes, and the more unfuckable with I truly feel like I'm stepping into. Like I envision myself as a woman that you cannot fuck with. You cannot fuck with me because that's how much I am in my worth. And for most of my life, I lived in such low unworthiness and thinking that I don't deserve this, that I don't deserve that. And being in this place of, no, I deserve it all because I am all. That sends like chills down my spine, because no one's ever told me that I'm allowed to be worthy, that I'm allowed to find that within me. And the moment I gave myself permission was the moment I really started stepping into my power. And the stepping in the power, stepping in the worth is priceless.
So where do you think this unworthiness, you mentioned your mother, where do you think this worthiness started in you? And could you just break down exactly what it is that when you're feeling, okay, I feel unworthy right now, you're able to pick it out and label the program?
Yes.
What exactly are you feeling in that moment of unworthiness? And the reason why I asked this question, and we'll get into it later, is that when I started this program, whenever unworthiness would come up, I was like, I don't ever feel that. And I don't think I actually truly knew what it was until recently. And I would get it a lot confused with inadequacy. And I'd say, well, I feel inadequacy, but I don't feel unworthy. And as the more and more I healed the inadequacy, I realized the unworthiness was left. And now I can see the unworthiness, because they're very similar programs, but we can get to that in a little bit. I'd just like you to touch on exactly what you feel in terms of unworthy.
Yeah. I mean, again, I always like to preface this. We're never here to shame our parents. Like truly, you know, the love that we have for them is unmatched. And I know that my mother, she had a hard life like the rest of us. And I feel like she's so brilliant, she's so artistic, she's so strong, and all of these things. But I could feel as a little kid that she didn't deem herself worthy because she didn't have the career that she always wanted, or she didn't have as many friends as she wanted, or all of these things, right? And so the way that she would move around, her energy was always based in this place of like, I'm not good enough. And so me being a kid and looking up to mom, who was like, you know, she was my everything. I mean, I spent the most time with her. I started to believe, well, if she doesn't feel like that, then who am I? If she doesn't love herself, then how could I love myself? I was never given like an example of that. And so I grew up in this. And I remember when I was a kid, I used to be like, I'm going to make a career for myself because that's where I'm going to find me. And so chasing that, chasing the worthiness, chasing the worthiness actually spiraled me deeper into my unworthiness, because again, it was outside of me. So it wasn't, yeah.
And probably because you have the energy of unworthiness living within you, as you try and seek externally for the worth, energetically, you're going to be pulled into situations that actually reveal your unworthiness.
Yes.
And this is how a realization I've been having, that subtle energies that live within us govern our whole life.
Yes.
So because we have that unworthiness living inside of us, it's going to energetically, this is how the universe works. It's going to draw those situations in for those programs to come out.
Yes. Yes. And someone without self-awareness, right, gives into the programs, right? And then you stay in this place, this stagnancy of unworthiness, because you are attracting what you are emitting, right? And so all I would attract was all of these things of unworthiness, of people that felt unworthy. And then we would trauma bond, and all of us would just be in this energy of unworthiness. And it wasn't until I started to understand, like, this is not where I want to stay anymore, that when I stepped into my worthiness, all this beauty started coming to me. And then all the people that are in their worth and working on their worth started to be attracted to me. And I realized, this is all energy, my friends. Every single thing is just energy. And the more you step into the power that is you, and now we playing ball.
Yes. Yeah. What we're talking about here is subtle energies. We're always talking about subtle energies. And the way that they work is they vibrate at a certain frequency. And this is what we look at when we're looking at quantum physics. And it's the same that the yogis and the sages have talked about. And when we find these programs of unworthiness within us, they're vibrating at a certain frequency, and that's being emitted outwards. And so therefore what comes back to us is the same. So even if as your journey, Ellie, you know, you were trying to find this worthiness, what you're putting out is the unworthiness. Therefore what you're going to get back is just these unworthy situations. And just so you can see it. Right. And so the program can be lived.
And let's also talk about the hundreds of programs under the umbrella of unworthiness. You know, then all of a sudden I'm in my powerlessness, and then I'm weak, and I'm all of these other things. And then you feed into that because you don't know that all of these things are being activated within you. And it's not until you get the big one that you see, oh, I can dissolve all of the other hundreds of programs underneath it. But that requires you to go deep within, which is difficult to face, which is why many people cannot go on this journey, because they don't want to face it.
Right.
But when you face it, baby, now we talking, because that's when you start to really see and unravel. You really are unraveling your survival self to really become your true self. And the unworthiness umbrella, my God, the programs under that have been wild. And I think with you, a lot of the things that you and I have discussed is powerlessness, which is something that runs deep within your lineage. Yeah. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, I want to go back to inadequacy. Because for me, I had to fully understand the difference between, well, I'm not enough and I'm not worthy of whatever it is. For me, when I started my journey with MSU, these two wounds, these two programs were coming from the same place. So I was struggling to differentiate them, and I couldn't understand what unworthiness was. I didn't get it. And as I said, only recently I have. The wound that I had was I am nothing. Oof. And that was the deep wound. And so that created a lot of, well, I'm not enough. I'm clearly not enough for this person. And so once I really got into that wound and started healing the wound of I'm not enough, there was still the deepest wound of I'm nothing. But that I could only then get in that once I'd done the inadequacy work. And then I was able to get into the, oh, well, if I'm nothing, I'm not worth anything. And I've started to see it more and more now leak into every aspect of my life, of where I haven't spoke up for what I wanted because I felt like I was not deep down. It's not something that I actively think about all the time. These are deep core wounds. We're not saying that we're walking around thinking all the time like, oh, I am nothing.
Right.
It's like, this is the core wound that I believed when I was 6 years old. This isn't something I believe now. I, of course, don't believe that now.
Right.
But the 6-year-old at the time that acquired this wound, the subtle energy that was created that wasn't able to like process and be loved and healed, was that this poor child feels like he is nothing.
Right.
And that is a core belief of him. And then that's coming out into the inadequacy and into the unworthiness.
Yes.
And it was really interesting this last week starting to see the difference between the two, because it's something I always struggled with.
Yeah. I could you give a specific example? You said this thing of not worthy of this person, right? And I think that a lot of people undergo that, right? We think that if someone doesn't love us or someone doesn't accept us, that it's because we are unworthy. And so can you give some example of that?
Yeah. So again, I've got to go back to these two examples, because these of the inadequacy and unworthiness, because I'll start with the inadequacy because this is how it's played out in my experience. Now, this might not be the same for everyone. As we always mention, like, everyone's individual unique experience is going to be exactly that, unique. But for me, it was whenever I would get in like a romantic partnership, it was the feeling that I wasn't, like, if whoever I am just wasn't enough for that person. And that was the inadequacy side of things. And they're so similar, but when you really start tapping into the energy, that you can start to detect the difference. The other side of it was that I'm not worth this person. So I am worth so little. So I am not even worth anything. It's not that I'm not enough for this person. It's that I'm not even worth their time.
Wow.
And so for me, this would come through in the way that I would change my behavior in order to feel enough, or the way that I would change my behavior in order to feel enough, or like just feel like I'm worthy. And the moment I had this last week was just tapping into my inner child and really feeling I am worth love. And I really felt like I wasn't on a deep level. Again, not on a superficial level. Like, in my mind, it wasn't going around like that. But when I really tapped into the energy that was living within me, the energy, and when I allowed that pain to speak, the pain was saying, I am worth nothing. I am nothing. And then I started to tie into how this led into my depression. And it was, I am nothing, therefore I am meaningless, therefore life is meaningless. And this would cause a deep spiral of existential crisis, because I started to think when I was a kid that life is meaningless. And of course, you're going to feel like life is meaningless when it's void of love. When you have love in your life, you feel the meaning in everything. When we'll use the term in love, it doesn't matter what you do, you're loving everything. If you're in the vibration of love, and you're in the state of being of love, and whether that comes from you're falling in love with somebody, or whether it be yourself, everything you do is, oh, this is so good. This cup of coffee, oh, amazing. You know, it can be the smallest of things, but when your life is void of that love, when your life is void of the meaning that you have for the world and yourself, it becomes a very dark place, very dark place. And you can see that in all of society.
Yes.
And I've seen it all throughout my life whenever these wounds would come up. But they especially would show themselves in relationships. And I would find other programs of codependency and attachment wanting to jump in, and they all rooted back down to this deep core wound of I don't matter. And I am meaningless. Life is meaningless.
Oh, thank you for that share. And then, you know, the more you step into your worth, you realize no one was ever going to give you the worthiness that you give yourself.
No one ever could.
Right. Exactly. Because how can they? They can't. It's you.
On that note, I've got one more share because that brought up something, if you don't mind. Just recently, I saw my mum for the first time in 2 years, and it was so magical. We had such a wonderful trip. She came out from the UK, but coming into the week, I was wondering what I was going to feel, because my mum always gave me such unconditional love. And whenever I've been doing this work and tapping into myself and finding unconditional love, I started to feel I felt like it was my mom doing it, but it was, you know, it's just the same vibration of that love. And I got a little jarred at one point because I realized my entire life I've been searching for this unconditional love. And even when I was like meeting her again, I was expecting to feel this love, and then I did. But what I really came to realize is, you know, that was what I was seeking, but it doesn't even compare to the love that I've been able to find from within. And, you know, the love for between a child and a parent, I mean, I think it's a little stronger for the parent of the child. Never had children, so I don't know, but I know that it's one of the strongest loves you can ever feel, is that relationship. But the strongest love I've really ever felt is when I've gone straight into my heart and I've really connected to who I am. And that love, it's more powerful than anything that I've felt.
Right.
So it was this real big realization that, like, this amazing woman my entire life gave me all this beautiful love. And now I don't need it from her. Now I can find it from myself. So when she gives it to me, it's extra. And it's like, wow, you can really appreciate and feel it because you feel where it's coming from and you know what she's giving. And you know it so intimately because you are it and you are finding it. You are finding it yourself. So it really changes the dynamic of your relationships in every level when you're able to really go in and connect to what true, authentic self-love, unconditional love is. Yeah.
Beautiful share. And, you know, I'm sure a lot of people at home can relate to this, but my whole life, because I felt so unworthy, the place that I saw my woundedness the most was when it came to romance and just wanting someone to love me. Like, just please love me.
Yeah.
Please accept me. Please value me. Please hold me. Please fill me, because it's all I ever wanted. And it wasn't until I went through something really deep where I was forced straight into my pain and I had a choice. I could run away from this pain or I could ram through it as the Aries that I am. And I rammed through it. And when I discovered that it was me that I was searching for this whole time, I was under my nose the whole time. Like, I used to fantasize, like, where's that love? Where's that love? Where's that love? Baby, it was you the whole time. You. And when I started going into that, you realize, like, everything else is bonus. It's all extra. Because when you tap into that, the well is, it's endless. There's no end. It's infinite. Because we are love.
Yeah. And it's good talking about this, actually, and you sharing all that, because it is reminding me of the work that I need to constantly do, and that's to tap into that and constantly connect to that love, because that's the stuff that really transforms your life and really brings a deep level of meaning to everything that you do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because because we want it so bad, we abandon self so much, so much. And it's not until you realize the abandonment of self is the reason why you keep suffering, is the reason why you keep asking others to hold you. It's like, now let's hold yourself. And that is truly the coming home journey. And that's why it's so deep and it's so beautiful. I, being Asian American, especially in the entertainment industry, I've always wanted my community to just accept me. So every time there were like huge events and I wasn't a part of it, I would spiral into so much unworthiness, because even amongst my people, even people that looked like me, I wasn't accepted. I wasn't loved. I wasn't valued. And when I started going on my journey, I look at that now, and there's no energy anymore that attaches myself to that. I look at that now and go, I don't need any of that. None of that means anything. Truly. I'm saying this because I lived it. No, that used to mean everything to me. And to look at that and go, I don't need any of that. And if I show up in my truest self, then everything that is meant for me will come to me. And that is power. For me to look at all the things that used to deem me unworthy, and I can look at it and go, oh, I've surpassed that because I found me.
So question.
Yes.
Do you believe if anyone's listening and doesn't know, Ellie has worked as an on-camera host.
Mm-hmm.
And an actress. She was going down the path of like Hollywood.
Yeah.
Do you believe that the unworthiness, that energy, was the reason you were drawn to that path and that career?
Yeah.
I was gonna say, or was it part of it, or I just comment on that.
Yeah, I'm an artist for sure inside. The way that I emote, the way that I feel is through performance art. So like acting makes me feel alive when I'm hosting. And I'm interacting with people, like the energy, all that used to make me feel so alive. That's the initial reason I went into it. And then when I got into it, I got lost in the sauce, because now the artist part started to dissolve. And then it was like this thing of like, I need to be accepted by this community. I need to be accepted by these people. And then it became, I need to be famous, and I need to have all this clout, and I need to have all of these things. And the original place of such purity of me wanting to be in this space to really express myself became really sick. And I lost me in all of that. Yeah. And so it wasn't until I was literally on my knees, broken, asking what's going on within me, is when I heard the calling to come home to me. And that's when Hollywood and all of these things started literally becoming so small. Like everyone at home, I used to be obsessed. I used to think that was it. It was it. That's it. That's what you want as a human, is all of that. And now I see, no, not at all.
And do you think you felt like that was it because it was providing some sort of meaning in your life?
Yes, absolutely. Because if I was loved by the world, I mean something.
Wow.
And now I don't need any love from the world because I mean something to me.
And here's an example of how, our pain can take us on journeys and it can lead us down paths, and we're not viewing the pain as neither good nor bad. So it sounds like this unworthiness started from you as a child, and it helped maybe usher you in a certain direction in life until you eventually hit the dead end and was like, oh, this isn't the way. Let me go back to the fork in the road where I went wrong, and let me try again. But everything that you learned from the fork to the dead end has made you this incredible person and allowed you to develop skills. And you've had all these experiences with being on camera. And now you're able to take that skill and point it into a different direction, which is what we're seeing now. And I'm excited to see what happens when you really merge these two worlds of your two life paths. One of this, mystical life coach, spiritual teacher, badass, energetic alchemy healer with the on camera host more
Mm,
3D side of your life, because it's obviously you can quite clearly see developed some incredible skills. And it's
mm,
cool how it's, so this is an example of how nothing, even things that come from pain, don't necessarily have to be bad, and they can
right.
still, even though they lead us to dead ends, cause us to really grow in other areas.
And you and I, you and I were discussing this recently, that there is no right or wrong or good or bad.
No.
That every choice you make will lead you down to certain lessons and things that you are here to overcome and understand and understand. Everything will lead you down a timeline. There will always be lessons. So all of these things that your ego wants to say to you, like that was wrong or you shouldn't have done that, like, no, everything is exactly as it should be.
Yeah, never should all over yourself. I love that phrase, but it's so true, right? We always say, "Oh, I should have done this." No, you shouldn't have, because you did everything that you should have done in that
Yeah.
moment. Because at that moment, you did the best that you could.
Yep.
You had this set of knowledge, this set of experience, and you made a choice, and it resulted in this. And guess what? Now, when you have that experience again, you won't make the same mistake.
Right.
But we have to make these mistakes and learn these lessons in life.
Yes.
And so there's no should.
Right.
Like, of course, like, you did the best you could.
Right.
If you would have known what you know now, you wouldn't have done it.
Right.
So therefore, you tried your best, and and that's perfect, whatever that is. Do not shame yourself or should yourself,
No.
or whatever. Just allow your journey to be what it is,
Yes.
and hold back the judgment, and grow from there.
Yes. Yes. Earth, we came here to learn. We
Yeah.
came here to learn. So accept that that's why we're here. And the more acceptance and love you have for your journey, the more beautiful it becomes, because then, and the ego gets quieter and quieter and quieter, because it can't hold any power against you discovering you. So it's really magical. It's really beautiful. Danny, I've seen, obviously, your journey. I've been, it's crazy. Me and Danny have known each other for 4 months, but there's no time. And so the journey has been so crazy. And I've seen you step into your worth and your power. For anyone at home who's listening to us and can relate to us and resonate with us, what would you say to them about how to really tackle unworthiness? Like the first few steps coming from your journey.
From my journey, it was one of the deepest wounds that I had, and I wasn't even aware of it. So it was actually lying in my unconscious, or what Jung likes to call the shadow. I knew that there was stuff going on inside, but I was completely unaware of how this core wound, I didn't even know it was there. I didn't know that I believed that I didn't matter.
Wow.
I didn't know that I felt deep down that life was meaningless and that I was meaningless. So for me, for anyone out there, the first step is to start to become more aware, and to understand that you probably have a lot of these energies living within you, and you are completely unaware. So I would recommend looking at the things that you know are there to start with, work through those, and then get very curious about why you're showing up the way you're showing up. Rachel always says, what's the quote she says? How are you showing up versus how you think you're showing up? Right? And we're often completely unconscious about the programs and the wounds that we have. And come to MSU, and we'll start you the journey of developing your self-awareness, investigating your triggers, getting to what root wounds are really causing your behavior, because ultimately we all came on this earth to achieve some level of greatness. And I truly believe to be a great human, you have to heal the wounds which are holding you back. You have to heal the energies that are living within you, that are restricting you and blocking you from your greatness. So start getting curious is my advice. Start looking into yourself and reach out to anyone at MSU who can actually really help you do this work. It's very simple, but it's extremely difficult.
We remind you, the work we do here is we remind you, I can't speak. We remind you that you are an alchemist, and that true transformational healing happens on an energetic level. And we are here to let you know, like, we are living that, and it's wild.
Yeah. And the more that you start doing this work, as coaches, like we really go through a good bit of training for this.
Yeah.
You start to become attuned to exactly what's vibrating in people and what's
Yep.
flowing and what frequencies are coming
yeah.
off them. And this is what helps us as coaches be able to like help feel. It's literally a feeling of, or sometimes it's coded in the words that people use of what exactly is going on with this person.
Yep.
And so the more that you do this work, you will become more accustomed to these subtle energies.
Yep.
You might be listening to this and think, these two have no idea what they're on about. I'm completely fine. I had someone in my life recently who said, we were getting down the topic of pain, and they said that they've never experienced pain, like emotional pain. And if that doesn't scream that you are lost in your unconscious shadow, that you aren't aware how you are showing up versus how you think you're showing up,
right.
I don't know what does. And so we often live our lives from a place of unconsciousness, and we are here in this generation to raise the level of consciousness, to elevate and ascend. That is our mission on this earth right now, and we're going to do it. So it's a question of which road to Rome do you want to take? Because there's a very clear and practical, simple way that we can offer you, but you can go any way, but you have to make it there.
Yes. And on that note, guys, if you're being called to check out MSU, set up a free consultation with any of us. And trust me, the passion that comes from us, I mean, I'm sure you can feel it from me and Danny. We are so passionate about this because we understand that we are shifting into an amazing chapter of human evolution. And we are here to help usher and guide so many of you, like so many have guided us. And hit us up. Visit mastersofselfuniversity.com for sure, guys. And subscribe, share this episode. We hope you really enjoy. Thank you so much for being here with us. We love you so much. We don't need to know you to love you. Danny, thank you for being here with me. And to everyone home, we'll see you guys next time. Bye.